The anime begins with 2 scenes where a girl walks quickly in the snow in a post-apocalyptic time. She misses her love and starts running toward the clock tower. In another scene, a little girl waves her hand to say goodbye from the window as a plane takes off, and the little girl smiles. The scene shifts again to the post-apocalyptic girl, who reaches near the clock tower to meet her love and hugs him. She is in a hurry but does not want to leave him. In that moment of sadness, she admits that she has never told the boy she loves him. The boy already knows that and kisses her with love before the impending doom. They hug each other tightly while the clock strikes 12. In the other scene, the little girl sees that it begins to snow, but the airplane she is waving at catches fire and explodes with a blast right before her eyes. Then we are introduced to a girl, Fuko Izumo, who finishes reading a romantic manga and wishes that her youth would be more like the story she just read. As she finally finishes reading the manga, she contemplates ending herself. Suddenly, someone alerts her from behind that standing on the edge is dangerous. She tells him that her only unfulfilled wish was to fall in love with someone, but her body would not allow her to do so. She turns around and warns the muscular guy in front of her to stay away. Izumo takes out her knife, points it at the guy, and warns him that he will pay a hefty price if he ever tries to rescue her. She closes her eyes in sadness, but the strange guy walks right toward the knife she holds for threatening him. She gets shocked, realizing that she unknowingly stabbed the guy. But the muscular guy grabs her by the neck and screams joyfully that he has finally met someone who can kill him. Then he throws her to the safe side of the fence. Izumo tells him that her unluck is coming, and suddenly, the concrete block breaks, and the muscular man falls onto a fast train. Izumo begins crying, blaming herself for dragging one more person into her suffering. Suddenly, the guy's head rolls to her feet, and somehow he is still alive. His head suddenly flies to her, and Izumo is shocked to see that the guy's body regenerates itself. He shouts with joy that he is lucky he met her, but Izumo kicks him in a sensitive area, assuming he is a zombie, and runs away. The guy propels his body and captures her, telling her that he is undead and wants to know the story of unluck she mentioned earlier. Suddenly, he sees some cops running toward them, so he decides to take Izumo with him to his hideout. They stop at the top of a building, and the guy quickly regenerates his legs. Izumo assumes it's an excellent chance to escape because the guy is not paying much attention and silently crawls away from him. But he grabs Izumo by her legs and holds her tightly upside down. Izumo shouts that he is touching her and it will bring him unluck. But the guy knows that capturing her by her clothes would not bring him unluck. He tells her that he will not leave her until she explains to him about her unluck. She refuses to tell him, as she has already made up her mind to end herself, so it will not make any difference whether she tells him or not. But she did not know what the guy would do with her. He suddenly starts spinning Izumo while standing on the edge of the building. Izumo screams, terrified, until the guy stops spinning her and puts her down. After pausing for a moment, she begins by saying that 10 years ago, her parents took a flight for a business trip. She hugged her parents, and they promised her that they would return soon. Just half an hour later, the airplane's engine caught fire and exploded with a blast, and all 270 people, including her parents, died. That taught Izumo that anybody she touched would suffer unluck. So, she covers every part of her body to protect others from getting hurt. As the guy hears this, he hugs her and waits for the unluck. Suddenly, a banana crate falls from the airplane onto the muscular guy, turning him into a pancake. Izumo begins running away as she wants to escape from the strange undead guy before he regenerates his body. But she slips on a banana and falls from the building. Falling, she realizes that she has not enjoyed her life at all. She wanted to embrace love and enjoy her youth, and now she is embracing a miserable death, all because of a banana peel. She tries to grab her manga but cannot, and meanwhile, the muscular guy approaches her using his regenerating ability and holds her before she hugs the ground. He says that he needs her to put an end to his ridiculously long life. He starts flying while holding Izumo in his hand using his ability and heads back to his hideout to figure out her unluck ability. Meanwhile, a few men in suits stand on a building, watching him fly away. The leader orders the others to follow him to his hideout. In his hideout, the guy asks Izumo to remove her shirt as he wants to experience the highest level of unluck. Izumo begins running away in fear, and while she is being chased by the muscular guy, her jacket gets caught on a nail and comes off, exposing her long hair. Izumo begins crying that she never had a haircut because that would bring unluck to the barber. The muscular guy sits down and starts giving her a nice haircut. He perfectly trims her hair short as he was a barber long ago. Izumo smiles joyfully as she watches her hair being cut into an excellent shape after a long time. But the guy shouts with pleasure, expecting major unluck because he was holding Izumo for 15 minutes. Suddenly, his head gets sliced off and falls to the ground. A suited guy who was chasing the muscular guy thanks Izumo for getting the undead to let his guard down, and then they put Undead's head in a capsule. But to Izumo's surprise, they put handcuffs on her too. The suited guy tells her they will eradicate any unusual people as a part of their duty, but he plans that he can use Izumo's ability to eliminate anyone. She would prove a potent weapon for his team. Izumo pleads with that guy to leave Undead alone. She remembers how he never tried to harm her. He only wanted to use her unluck ability to end his ridiculously long life. Besides, he gave her a pretty nice haircut too. The suited guy grabs her face tightly as she begins crying, missing the undead guy. Suddenly, lightning struck the guy holding the capsule with Undead's head because of the unluck from touching Izumo when he cuts her hair. Undead quickly regenerates his body and defeats the 4 bodyguards, leaving the leader alive because he is holding Izumo as a human shield in front of him. The suited guy puts a sharp sword to Izumo and asks Undead to hand over his head if he wants Izumo to stay alive. Since it's not a big deal for him, he cuts off his head and throws it to the suited guy. Izumo begins crying, and the truth is she doesn't know how to trigger the biggest stroke of unluck. She pushes the suited guy away and frees herself, then starts running toward Undead's head and kisses it on the cheek. Undead asks Izumo to run away as he begins regenerating. He then grabs the suited guy and holds him in place. Suddenly, a meteorite falls from the sky and hits the building. It shatters the whole building while Izumo runs as fast as she can. But the blast is so big that it blows her away. As the dust settles down, the undead reaches Izumo with a sword in his chest. He is so happy about the massive display of unluck, which strangely helped him. Izumo smiles and calls him a zombie for being undead after surviving many deadly attacks. Suddenly, Izumo realizes that the undead guy must have some name. Unfortunately, he can't remember his name and prefers to call himself Undead. But Izumo comes up with a name, Andy, as it resembles Undead. Andy quite likes the name, but he remembers how the massive blast was initiated with a single kiss. He thinks of a devilish idea to engage in lovemaking with Izumo to start the massive unluck. Izumo begins running away as soon as she hears this, while Andy chases her to catch. And that's the end of the first episode of Undead Unluck. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, goodbye.